the date.
13 million documents. If there really was a smoking gun in there, it would be almost impossible to find.
So far, the CIA archive has revealed thousands of reports of sightings of unexplained aircraft. One report said that of 1,500 official accounts of UFOs since 1947, an incredible 20% remain unexplained. But was the release of the CIA online archive another step towards disclosure, or a way to bury the truth? When the Pentagon's classified study into UFOs, the Advanced Aerial Threat Identification Program, was uncovered later in 2017, journalists and researchers rushed to file Freedom of Information Act requests. Will these files finally explain what the government knows? After the CIA's archive is released to the public in 2017, the New York Times story reveals the Department of Defense's ATIP, or Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program.
Oh my God.
As soon as the story breaks, journalists and researchers start filing Freedom of Information Act requests, known as FOIA.
There have now been 1,500 to 2,000 FOIs on this program, $22 million program. And the government at this point is saying, program? What program? They're playing the same old game. We didn't release those films, but they're under so much pressure.
If this keeps up for even 4 or 5 or 6 more months, I do not imagine how disclosure cannot take place.
Much of what was undertaken and reviewed still remains in the dark, in classified form at the Department of Defense. I would hope that they would declassify and release as much as possible.
Good afternoon.
When this story broke in the New York Times,
Jordan.
a guy named Jordan Fabian from The Hill, he asked Sarah Sanders the $64,000 question.
Does the president believe in the existence of UFOs, and would he be interested in restoring funding for that program?
Somehow that question hasn't come up in our back and forth over the last couple days, but I will check into that and be happy to circle back. Jennifer.
As far as I know, she has never come back around, because you can't. The president has to stay out of it. They want the community to force the issue. They want us to force the issue. And that is why they moved it to Bob Bigelow, who's a contractor in Las Vegas. It's private industry that will do the disclosure.
History is about to happen at a level that's almost incalculable, extraordinary, unprecedented. It makes something like the Roman Empire look trivial. So just think about that. The announcement of extraterrestrial presence, worldwide engagement, open contacts with multiple civilizations.
The revelations about ATIP may be clues that there's an agenda here. This may be government trying to slowly drip feed this information out to the public in such a way that there won't be out-and-out panic. It may be a way of slowly but surely acclimatizing people to the reality of this phenomenon.
The fact that the New York Times published a Pentagon story is extraordinary, and nobody really cared. So, to me, that means that while we're all talking about that we may be connected to extraterrestrials, that this knowledge is within us. It's hardwired so that, hey, if they're coming, it won't be panic because we come from them. I do think that the world is ready for this knowledge, and I think that it would be the most revolutionary story in the history of mankind. Has the time finally come when not only the United States government, but nations around the world will reveal what UFO researchers and ancient astronaut theorists have long suspected? That extraterrestrial visitation of our planet is not only real, but has been happening for thousands of years. There are many who believe the answer is a profound yes, and that the will lead to a greater understanding not only of mankind's past, but of its future. A future that will see humans as the torchbearers of a new generation, and as the extraterrestrial visitors of planets and galaxies far beyond our own. This season,
If you look at the face, it's keeping the record, not only of Egypt, but the whole world.
of Ancient Aliens.
3, 2, 1, let it go. We're trying to find microbes coming from the upper atmosphere. We're going to recreate the exact flight path over the Bermuda Triangle.
This is what you experience in time, vortex. I traveled 100 miles in only 3 minutes.
Every block is bigger than this block. Insane. The reason this pyramid is the most magnificent is what you're about to see inside the Great Pyramid. This is that's a story that we've actually seen.
The possibility that in the past we had interactions with an extraterrestrial civilization.
We can't rule it out.
We have an impulse within us to explore, to discover.
There's where Area 51 is. What we actually could be looking at is a genuine alien life form.
He was an artist whose paintings have become priceless masterpieces.
Leonardo produced some of the world's most recognizable paintings, the Mona Lisa, the Last Supper, the Lady with the Ermine.
He was a genius whose inventions were centuries ahead of their time.
He drew construction plans for tanks, for helicopters, all sorts of wild things that came into reality during our lifetime right now.
But there are those who believe that Leonardo da Vinci was inspired by an extraterrestrial intelligence, that his paintings are embedded with secret knowledge and contain codes which, when deciphered, will provide the keys to unlocking the universe.
I think Da Vinci is trying to tell us that there's a higher intelligence that operates in our world.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the Leonardo da Vinci, the Salvator Mundi, masterpiece by Leonardo Christ the Saviour, previously in the collection of 3 Kings of England.
New York City, November 15th, 2017.
370 million back to France last time at $370 million. 400 million.
At a Christie's auction at Rockefeller Center, Leonardo da Vinci's newly authenticated painting, Salvator Mundi, sells for a record-breaking $400 million.
So,
The buyer is a Saudi prince, representing the new Louvre Museum in Abu Dhabi. But why was a member of the Saudi royal family, or anyone, so willing to pay such an incredible price for a work of art?
Leonardo da Vinci has captured the fascination of so many people. I really believe he was way ahead of his time. But if Leonardo were alive today and realized how much his paintings would go for, he'd go crazy. It's a lot of money for a painting. You ask yourself if there's another possibility.
There are those who believe that the Salvator Mundi is much more than a priceless piece of Renaissance art. They believe, when considered in context with other examples of Da Vinci's paintings, that it contains a piece of a giant puzzle, one that, when put together, could reveal the secrets of the universe. April 15th, 1452. Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, the illegitimate child Leonardo's name is born in Vinci, Italy.
If you were not entitled to take your father's name, your last name just became the town you came from. This probably aided his development. The fact that he didn't belong also meant that he wasn't caught up in the official version of reality. He was free enough to have his own ideas.
When he was a teenager, Leonardo settled in nearby Florence. At that time, the city was a cultural mecca, the beating heart of a classical revival known as the Renaissance.
The Renaissance is a resurgence of new ideas and approaches and interests in not only antiquity, but in the reinterpretation of the human condition. It reinvents, really, the culture of the time.
Leonardo received an informal education in the studio of the renowned Florentine painter Andrea del Verrocchio, but was also largely self-taught. Despite this, or perhaps because of it, he excelled at a staggering range of disciplines.
Da Vinci was way ahead of his time during the period in which he lived. He drew construction plans for tanks, for helicopters, all sorts of wild things that came into reality during our lifetime right now.
In March 2018, author and ancient astronaut theorist William Henry traveled to Florence to learn more about the Renaissance master. He was also eager to find out firsthand if there was any truth to the theory that Da Vinci hid secret messages in his paintings. At the Piazzale Michelangelo, overlooking the city, Henry met with Dr. Michael Quantelstein, who has made it his life's work to discover everything there is to know about Leonardo da Vinci.
So excited to be here in Florence, a home of Leonardo. Yeah, you look around, you start to see that these are what you see in Leonardo's paintings.
Absolutely. He took his inspiration just from those hills, those trees. 500 years ago, Florence was, of course, a much smaller city.
Right.
So just crossing the Arno over there, you see the Ponte Vecchio, and Leonardo would find himself amidst nature to study the flow of water, or the movements of water, to study birds.
Leonardo created just a prodigious volume of an explosion, really, of creativity. What do we have left of his legacy? We have a lot.
one of the temple columns is capped by a lotus flower, which in ancient Egypt represented the so-called flower of life.
The flower of life is the information behind how the universe was created. Everything in the universe is geometric. Sacred geometry implies that there is intelligence behind it.
It's believed by mystics to be a symbol of advanced superconsciousness, a way of pointing to knowledge that exists by extraterrestrial beings. Da Vinci, you can fairly say, was practically obsessed with it. In one wonders, Da Vinci actually tapped into the ultimate cosmic secrets represented by the flower of life.
Cosmic secrets? Sacred geometry? Was Leonardo da Vinci encoding his paintings with forbidden knowledge? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and they believe that knowledge may have been given to him after direct contact with extraterrestrial beings. Recognized as a genius, even in his lifetime, Leonardo da Vinci is one of the most thoroughly recorded lives of all the Renaissance artists.
Da Vinci was such a popular figure that his life was documented in great detail. However, what's interesting is that there are 2 years missing from his existence. He basically disappeared off the face of the earth.
From 1476 to 1478, Leonardo da Vinci's activities completely disappeared from the historical record. The date occurs when the artist was between 24 to 26 years old, just at the point when he was beginning to come into prominence. So what could account for these missing years? Ancient astronaut theorists point to a strange experience the artist had while hiking near a cave. It is one of the very few autobiographical anecdotes Da Vinci ever made in his personal journal.
He came across this cave, and as he stood in front of it, all of a sudden he felt drawn to go inside in order to find out about the miracle or the wonderment that's inside.
We don't know what happened inside this cave, but it's quite possible that Leonardo da Vinci actually encountered extraterrestrial teachers who then gave him certain information. And it's this knowledge, perhaps, that made Leonardo da Vinci the incredible genius that he was.
I'm not sure Leonardo da Vinci went to another world. I have a feeling that this guy, somehow through dreaming or going through some kind of dimension, was able to see the future, our future.
Those we call geniuses, such as Leonardo da Vinci, are able to discern and detect these codes that are coming to them from these higher levels of reality and utilize them in their work, in their art, in their inventions to improve this physical world that we live in. Unlike other artists, Leonardo da Vinci did not have to measure the ratios and the proportion. It just came to him spontaneously. He was tapping into something that allowed him to bring down knowledge and information, just like the ancient cultures did.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that further evidence of Leonardo's contact with extraterrestrial intelligence can be found by a close examination of one of his most intriguing paintings, The Virgin of the Rocks.
The Virgin of the Rocks is really a showpiece for some of Leonardo's special techniques, including sfumato, which adds this hazy aura. We see figures emerging from shadows into spotlight in a way that other artists of his time didn't do it.
In March 2018, author and researcher William Henry traveled to the outskirts of London. There, he met with Da Vinci expert Lynn Pickner in order to get her thoughts on this unique work of art.
Just come from the National Gallery and experienced the Virgin of the Rocks. When you look at it, you're drawn into it. The colors, the setting, it's almost like it's just coming out of the wall and you're stepping into it.
Yeah, and also there's a sense of there's something lurking in it that we don't really get, that is holding back a little.
The Virgin of the Rocks depicts the apocryphal story of an early meeting between the infant Jesus and the infant John the Baptist during the time of the Holy Family's flight to Egypt.
In this painting, apparently, is baby John the Baptist kneeling to Jesus, and the Virgin Mary's got her arm round John the Baptist, and there's an archangel who is Uriel. And so far, so good, you might think, except that the children are with their wrong protectors. I mean, you would expect Jesus to be with his mother, and it so happens that Uriel is traditionally John the Baptist's protector.
Right. Uriel has a big backstory with informing Noah about the flood, Archangel of Wisdom.
Yeah, wisdom is, that's important here.
Celestial being coming from the heavens.
In one of the so-called lost chapters of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Book of Enoch, the Archangel Uriel guides Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, through heaven, where he is taught all the secrets and mysteries of the universe. Is it possible that Da Vinci knew of this lost, and some would say forbidden chapter of the Bible, and for this reason deliberately included Uriel as a way of sending a secret message about what he believed to be the extraterrestrial source of his incredible genius?
And there is, as you say, something very portal-like about this painting.
We just dropped a very important word as well, the word portal. It suggests to me that this painting is a sort of portal that he's taking us into where something very special is happening here. Maybe that explains why it's such an otherworldly, almost dreamlike scene.
Yeah.
The veil between this world and the other world.
In his painting, The Virgin of the Rocks, did Leonardo da Vinci deliberately plant clues that were intended for future generations to find? Clues that gave insight into his belief that much of mankind's knowledge had profoundly extraterrestrial origins.
Leonardo was equally fascinated with backgrounds as he was with figures in the foreground. And one of the things that's so striking about Virgin of the Rocks is this very craggy, spooky, dramatic cavern that provides the backdrop for the figures. There are almost no other precedents for this group of figures in this sort of location.
Could it be that Leonardo deliberately staged this scene at the mouth of a cavern in order to draw a link between the painting and his earlier experience in the cave? And by placing Jesus with the Archangel Uriel, was he indicating a belief that the Archangel was actually an extraterrestrial entity?
Da Vinci's inclusion of the Archangel Uriel, it makes you wonder if Leonardo may have had an experience with the Archangel Uriel who told him about humanity's future.
Of the only 15 known paintings attributed to Leonardo da Vinci, is it possible that they all contain evidence of the artist's belief in so-called secret or forbidden knowledge? And if so, might they also contain clues that are intended to reveal not only Da Vinci's personal beliefs, but a message that he was entrusted to convey to future generations? Milan, Italy. Housed in the monastery of Santa Maria delle Grazie is one of Leonardo da Vinci's most iconic paintings, The Last Supper. This imposing mural, more than 15 feet tall and nearly 29 feet wide, depicts the biblical moment when Jesus tells his disciples that one of them will betray him.
It's a very poignant moment. and the disciples are reacting to this statement, many in horror. To the left is St. Bartholomew, who seems to have leapt to his feet and hit the table and is leaning towards Jesus in shock. And third from right of Jesus in the middle is St. Philip, who seems to cave in with shock.
What's interesting about this Last Supper is it looks like a frozen moment of action. If you imagine you have remote control and the scene is on pause, and you were to unpause it, all this movement would happen. But at this frozen moment, you can really study the actions and reactions of the people depicted.
As with Leonardo's other works, many researchers and ancient astronaut theorists believe that this painting contains hidden messages.
When we were writing Templar Revelation, I looked at the Last Supper and I thought, but wait a minute, that's a woman sitting next to Jesus.
Sitting at the right hand of Jesus is a figure that has long been assumed to represent the Apostle John. But unlike the other figures in the painting, this one appears to have strikingly feminine features. In his own treatise on painting, Leonardo writes that women should always be depicted in art with their heads looking downwards and leaning a little on one side.
If you look at Jesus sitting at the centre of the table, leaning like that to one side is the woman, who with Jesus forms a giant M shape, presumably a clue to her name, Mary Magdalene.
In the Bible's New Testament, Mary Magdalene is identified as a follower of Jesus who witnesses both his crucifixion and his resurrection. But she was not reported to have been a participant in what is called the Last Supper. If that is true, then why would Leonardo place her in his painting? Did the artist have access to secret knowledge about the true nature of the relationship between Jesus and Mary Magdalene?
It seems that Leonardo was trying to point to Mary Magdalene having been extremely close to Jesus. We have them joined at the hip. We have them wearing mirror image clothes.
Jesus, as a 30-year-old Jewish man of the time, would have been very hard-pressed to be without a wife. So the theory is that Mary Magdalene was in fact his wife, but the Catholic Church didn't want Jesus as the Son of God to have a wife. They wanted him to be celibate, to be godlike, and so cast Mary Magdalene as a prostitute rather than as a woman of importance.
If Leonardo did indeed intend to depict Mary Magdalene as the person sitting next to Jesus, what makes her inclusion even more curious is an element of the story that seems to have been deliberately omitted: Jesus' chalice, otherwise known as the Holy Grail.
In the Bible, it says that one of the reasons for the Last Supper was for Jesus to instigate the communion, his blood represented by the wine on the table, and his body, which was to be broken on the cross by the broken bread. Now, there is no great glass, or indeed any particular glass of wine in front of Jesus, which in itself is an enormous thing.
According to legend, the Holy Grail had magical, life-giving properties. But there are some who insist that an actual grail